Hi everyone, it's Brad from We Be Fishing. That's right, the show that's part of the B&T Catfishing Adventures channel. Now, the We Be Fishing, this is part of a podcast, or our podcast, that's a branch off of the B&T Catfishing Adventures channel. So, there you go, you get both. This is where gives me the opportunity to just gab away on various topics with fishing. Now, we're in our second show here on the podcast. So this one is part 2 of the first one that we did. Now we're talking about jug fishing. That's right. And in the first one we talked about the history of jug fishing and how it's a tradition. And it was used, obviously to put, food on the table, in most cases for the families. And today it does the same thing, but it can be a family activity, or it could be, just yourself or you and a buddy or whatever. And it can even be part of a competition. There are tournaments out there, jug fishing tournaments out there, folks. That's right. And sounds like fun to me. But we talked about all that stuff in the last episode. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about the jugs themselves and some jugging techniques, okay? We've explained, basically what the jugs are in the last video, that nowadays they've changed from being jugs to actually pool noodles. A lot of times is what you'll find. You can find them, at stores and things like this in Walmart. They're made a little differently, but generally what a lot of people do is they make their own, or you can buy them like this from people online. We've given away some noodles in some of our giveaway shows before. Now, this is our bigger version models right here of what we use. Some of the other ones look basically like this, caps on either end and just a regular tube. All right, so it's the PVC with caps to help these noodles from pulling off a lot of times and slipping out, and that will still occur from time to time. If you're not careful, or these things wear out on you after a while. So you've got to make sure you do maintenance on your jug noodles type things, just like you would your regular rods, reels, and so on. Now, wanted to show you this. I talked about this one the other day. This is one that has a weight inside, and there's a lot of people that really like that. I'm sure you can hear that. That's a heavy weight. So the thing about this is, when you go to put this out, you have to be very careful and lay it out, because if you don't, it's already going to stand up. The weight slides up in here and it tips it, and this is going to stand up and give you a false read, saying that there's a fish on when there's not a fish on. So you've got to put this in here, and you put that just like this in the water, and then when the fish tugs on it, it will slide this down, standing it up. Now, this works. It is effective. Miss Tammy enjoys these. She likes these. I'm not as much of a fan, because it does give you a false read from time to time. If you have wakeboards going by, you got high winds, waves, so on and so forth, and that's not set just right, well, those waves can cause that weight to slide down and stand this up as well. And so that gives you a false read, and you go over and check if there's nothing there, and so on and so forth. Now, let me get, this one right here. And here's another one, and this one does not have the weight on it. All right, and again, they have the handle features and so on. Now, the purpose and the reason I also like this to be like this, and to have the handle version, or you think it's the handle, and it really is, in a matter of speaking, but I like to put an eye hook down here at the bottom. You can see this, and this is what I call the bottom. Now, if this is down here, all right, at this end, when the fish pulls, it's trying to pull the weight of the whole float, okay, or the noodle down. That's really, really buoyant. So it's going to try and fight. Now, some people think, I want to see this because I can swim by and grab it by the handle and pull it out. All right, the problem is the fish is fighting this and fighting this constantly, all right, just like this. And so that is if it's pulling it all. It's much easier for the fish because this is going to try and immediately pull the fish back up. All right, what I like on this way, if it pulls this down, it's less buoyant. All right, it's easier to pull down into the water. This can still go down, obviously, and if he pulls it down, well, it's still going to try and force him up. But if he's just sitting there with a little weight, this goes down much, much easier. All right, and it stands this big old orange thing up for me and lets me see it. Whatever color you choose, obviously, is going to work out there. We have found the color orange works really, really well for us. But that is the way you hook it. Now, I recommend if you're tying your line to an end, whatever end you choose, all right, no pressure, all right, whatever end you choose, that, you know, if you put an eye hook or you tie it straight to the PVC or whatever, make all of them identical, all right? And the reason for that is when they're setting in the water, sometimes jugs don't tip, they don't do anything. Fish will just pull them, right? Now, if you've got them all in the same direction, generally, or general, you know, in the same vicinity, they're all going to pretty much act the same. Now, you're going to have a little bit of turn and stuff if one gets caught by the wind and so on and so forth. But as a rule, it's going to end up turning back pretty much the same direction. So they're all floating and acting pretty much the same. Now, again, you're going to get a little bit of shifting from time to time, no matter what you do. But this is going to let you know, right, that it's acting, basically behaving just like the rest of the noodles out there. Now, if this one's turned all the way around, right, and it's now facing this way, then you've got something pulling it that way, right? So you may want to go check that, even if it's not standing up, all right? Sometimes they're up higher in the fish column, they grab that bait, and they come up, and they're not standing those noodles up. You know, they may have felt some initial resistance, and that's caused them to come up, and now they've just stayed in that area. So, if you see one turn way out, and it stays like that for a long period of time, could be something going on, and that's an indication that you might want to go check that jug out. Now, there's many different ways how we hook these things up, and I told you the other day a couple different things. Now, here's one thing some people do. Some people will not weight their noodles at all. They'll just throw them out there. There's they got the weight, or excuse me, the weight of their bait on there is basically all they have on there. And so those fish are not feeling any resistance until they feel the tug on the noodle. Now, some people weight them at the bottom. And I have a video out there that shows a version of, you know, how to tie a jug line that has them setting on the bottom, all right? Now, this is if you want your jug to stay in a certain area, all right? Now, this is a little bank sinker, and you can use something like that, or just lighter than what this is. This is a 2 ounce if you want that. You can drop that down. That's going to keep your noodle in that area. Now, as I said before, some people will take styrofoam cups and they'll fill it with cement. They'll put a bolt or a hook or something in there, an eye hook, and stuff. And when they drop that, that thing's not going anywhere. And if a fish does get it, well, generally, if it does drag it somewhere, it's not going to go far. All right. Now, even with the 2 ounce, it may not go very far either. But that will make it easier to find. Now, you can come up the line on that from where you have that sinker on the bottom, and you can do a dropper loop, or you can attach it directly to your line, either way, and you can put your hook out just like that. Or, you know, and so it's like a Kentucky rig, is basically what you're fishing here. Again, if you wish, you can come up here, you can put a double hook on it, so you got it high-low, just like this, and it's weighted to the bottom, and it's not going anywhere. Now, from here, I usually will put my barrel swivel right here, and then tie a main line, just like I would on a regular rod, okay? Now, on other versions, what you're going to do is you're going to maybe tie it like your regular rod. You're going to go, you know, come down off of your main line. I'm sitting here, been working on that. I've got some leader lines back here pre-tied, and some hooks back here. All right, so you'd have your main line right here, and then you're going to run a barrel swivel. And then you're going to bring your line off there. Now, what you might want to do is do like a Carolina rig, where on that line right there, maybe you put a bead, or excuse me, you go ahead and you put a small weight or sinker on there, just like that, and you go down to your hook. Now, I recommend you put a bead on there, maybe a couple, just to keep it away from that knot, and protect the knot a little bit, and you know, not have the weight right there like a knocker rig, for instance, with the hook. And it spaces that out a little bit. That way the fish isn't going to necessarily get all of that in their mouth, okay? So that's what I would recommend on that if you're doing that. And that's kind of a system I like to do. I like to put a little bit of weight on it, because when I put some weight down there, you know, you initially would have your bait floating back here with the current a lot and so on and so forth, and pulling it, and you put a little bit of weight down, and that keeps it under your float like it's supposed to be. It keeps it where it's supposed to be at the depth you have your line set for. Now, people ask a lot, what line length should I set these noodles at and for? And that just all depends on where it is you're fishing. You obviously, if you're in a, let's say you own a pond or a lake, you know, and you know what the depth there is, and much of it is basically the same. Now, it really doesn't matter if you're, you know, obviously if you're going to fish it on the bottom, you want it to be able to reach the bottom, right? If you're going to have that sinker setting on the bottom, it's how deep the body of water is you're fishing, right? But if you're wanting it to be up off the bottom and you're using it more like a Carolina rig on it, as far as the, you know, your setup there, then you're going to have to know, you know, basically how deep it is. And what those rigs will do is they're going to drift, right? They're going to cover some water and find a fish. So if it's on the river or a big, you know, a lake or something like that, and there's current or a lot of wind, obviously these things are going to be drug across or float across the body of water there, and you know, it's kind of like they're out looking for fish. You know, it's no different if you're suspending or dragging baits and covering some water. You're out there and you're in search of the fish itself. You're not waiting necessarily for the fish to come to you. You're going and looking for the fish with your noodles like that, okay? So you have to know approximate depth of where you're fishing. You want to be able to keep your bait up off the bottom, right? No matter what level you have. You know, the rivers and big lakes, you know, you're going to have big drops, and you're going to have mounds and hills and so on and so forth under there. And you've got to know when these jugs pass, are they going to be able to clear that spot, or are they going to hang up on the bottom? They're going to drag, maybe pull your bait off. You know, that's always a possibility as well. So you kind of got to know where to set them. And you may, so if you're not 100% sure, you know, and this thing, let's for an example, let's just say you're fishing and you know the depth is 15 feet right there, okay? Well, it's going to rise. Now, it could rise a lot, but, you know, you may say, okay, let's go a few feet. Let's set it at, you know, 10 to 12 feet, all right? and that gives you a pretty safe range. A lot of fish, even some of them, even if they're down low, they're not all in the mud. They're up off the bottom many times. They're just close to the bottom, and so they're not at that 15-foot mark. They're going to be up, in that, 13, 14 foot. And if you're right in 12, they're probably going to smell or sense your bait, field vibration if you've got that bait coming past them, so on and so forth. So they should be able to find it by vibration or scent, easily enough. So there you go. That's what I would do and recommend when talking about line length on those noodles. So I would definitely do that. So consider, make sure you're really considering that when you're going out and placing those noodles. And it's going to vary, folks. Sometimes you have your jugs set at a certain length, and we get lazy and don't want to change them out, because if you've got several of them, it takes some time to do that. So I understand that. So if you fish the same body of water with these things often, it's not a problem. But if you switch it up and you go to different locations like we do, you got to keep changing out lines and stuff often, or set you certain types of jugs for that particular area, and then you have jugs that you use on another body of water as well. So there you go. Jug fishing, or now noodle fishing, not the one where you stick your hand up in there and grab the things. I'm not doing that. Y'all have at that, but that's not something I'm doing. But again, there you go. Bigger bodies of water, you do want the bigger noodles, right? You definitely, I recommend putting the caps on there. You can glue the caps down if you want, so they don't slide. Again, I got to work on this one, so they don't slide, because then you have a teeter-totter, and that method doesn't help. All right, if it's halfway down there. Again, it's also hard to tell which direction is it turning, if you're supposed to have them all going the same direction, like I talked about earlier when tying your lines to your noodles. Guys, I hope this helps. All right, so again, your line length, attach them all to the same end. Again, why I prefer, for instance, it going like this as the down, and this being, in a sense, being your flag to let you know and alert you that you've got something. Again, you may want to go with the weight. It is cool. I gotta admit, it is cool. But I have seen a lot of false signals. All right, folks, jug fishing is a lot of fun. We do get a lot of questions about it, and I hope we've cleared some of that up for you today. Again, and in our past video, if you haven't seen it, be sure to check out the first episode, which was the part 1 of this jug fishing episode. Folks, I hope you enjoyed that. Give us a thumbs up if you did. Be sure to share our podcast version here, the We Be Fishing podcast, which again is part of the B&T Catfishing Adventures channel. Guys, you take care. Good luck out on the water. If you're jug fishing, good luck to you. Send us messages from time to time. Again, here on our YouTube, any of our shows or jug shows, you can let us know what's going on there. There is a B&T Catfishing Adventures on Facebook also. You can jump in there and send us messages from there and so on as well. We'd like to see some of your catches. That's always cool. And we'd like to hear from you. Also, don't forget on our channel to be checking out the community section, where we almost every day, put out polling questions for you guys. It helps us to get to know you better, and everybody else gets to know maybe what the popular thing is, or what type of technique somebody likes, and this and that, and so on and so forth. But be sure to check that out, folks. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. We'll hope to see you soon here with the We Be Fishing podcast, or on our regular channel, B&T Catfishing Adventures. You guys take care. Me and Miss Tammy will probably we're going to be out on the water soon. Y'all, have a nice day. We'll see you.